They had crossed star after star, system after system, world after world. 176 civilizations had stood before them. 176 had fallen. Not one had survived. The Empire did not see itself as cruel. It believed it was bringing order. Where there was chaos, it created control. Where there was resistance, it erased it. To them, conquest was not evil. It was natural. It was destiny. Their fleets were perfect machines of war. Massive black warships moved in exact formation, like a single living creature made of steel and light. Every ship obeyed central command. Every soldier followed clear orders. Every battle ended the same way. First came the warning. Then came the demonstration. Then came surrender. If surrender did not come, destruction followed. That was how it had always been. After their 176th flawless conquest, the Empire's high command gathered to review the next target. A small blue planet appeared on the central display. It rotated slowly around a yellow star on the edge of an ordinary galaxy arm. The planet was called Earth. Scans showed oceans covering most of its surface. Large landmasses were divided into many nations. The species dominant on the planet called themselves humans. Humans were not united. They argued constantly. They fought wars with each other. Their technology was advancing, but still primitive compared to the Empire. They used chemical rockets. They relied on radio signals. They had not even mastered faster-than-light travel. High Command studied the data without emotion. Industrial level, moderate. Energy weapons, primitive. Planetary defenses, limited. Threat level, minimal. It was decided quickly. Earth would become conquest number 177. The Empire sent silent observation probes ahead of the fleet. These probes slipped into the solar system like invisible shadows. They watched. They listened. They recorded everything. What they found was strange. Humans fought wars, yes. But they also helped strangers during disasters. They competed fiercely, yet they created music and art. They argued about politics but united during crisis. They laughed in the face of fear. The analysts were confused. Humans were weak. Their bodies were fragile. They needed oxygen, water, and careful temperature. Their lifespans were short. They made mistakes often. Yet their behavior did not match their weakness. When facing danger, humans did not always surrender. Sometimes they resisted even when defeat was certain. Sometimes they chose sacrifice over survival. The Empire had seen bravery before. But this was different. Humans were unpredictable. Still, unpredictability had never stopped the Empire before. Advanced weapons erased unpredictability. Superior strategy crushed resistance. High Command made the final order. The Armada will depart. Across deep space, the greatest fleet ever assembled began to move. Hundreds of warships powered their engines. Energy shields glowed like faint stars. Massive carriers transported ground forces. Command ships held strategic cores that controlled the entire formation. The Armada moved as one. Silent. Disciplined. Certain. Inside the flagship, officers reviewed Earth's defenses. The planet had satellites in orbit. It had nuclear weapons stored underground and at sea. It had aircraft carriers and fighter jets. It had early cyber systems connected through global networks. None of it mattered. One precise strike could disable communication. A second strike could remove military centers. A third could force surrender. Based on prediction models, Earth would fall within 7 hours of first contact. There was no debate, no fear, no doubt. The Empire had done this 176 times before. As the fleet approached the outer edge of the solar system, distant sensors detected minor activity from Earth's deep space telescopes. Humans had noticed something. A faint distortion. A signal that did not belong. On Earth, scientists began to argue over strange readings. Governments were informed. Military satellites adjusted their positions. News channels speculated about solar flares and equipment failure. No one yet understood what was coming. In space, the Armada slowed briefly, aligning into perfect formation. The ships formed layers, defense grids outside, strike vessels inside, command ships at the center. It was a pattern used in every successful conquest. The yellow star of the system shone ahead. Beyond it, a small blue planet continued to rotate, unaware that history was about to change. High Command issued the final statement before entry. Begin Phase 1. Approach and establish dominance. The Armada engaged faster than light transition. In a flash of controlled energy, hundreds of alien warships disappeared from the darkness between stars. Their destination was Earth. And like the 176 civilizations before it, the Empire believed this world would soon kneel. Before the Armada fully entered the inner solar system, the Empire followed its usual rule. They did not rush blindly into battle. They watched first. They studied. They calculated. Hidden probes had already reached Earth months earlier. They were no bigger than small rocks, but inside them were machines far more advanced than anything humans had built. The probes stayed invisible, drifting between satellites, hiding near the moon, floating beyond Mars. They listened to everything. They listened to military signals. They listened to internet traffic. They listened to television broadcasts, phone calls, and scientific data. Nothing escaped them. Inside the flagship, analysts reviewed the collected information. Massive screens displayed images of Earth cities, oceans, and deserts. Millions of human faces appeared and disappeared across the data streams. The Empire had studied many species before. Most followed simple patterns. Some were peaceful, but weak. Others were aggressive, but divided. A few were united, but technologically slow. Humans were different. They were divided, yes. Nations competed with each other. Leaders argued. Economies fought silently. There were conflicts over land, religion, power, and resources. But at the same time, humans were deeply connected. A disaster in one country could bring help from another. A disease could spread fear across the planet, yet scientists from different nations would work together to stop it. This confused the analysts. Species behavior inconsistent, one report stated. High internal conflict. High cooperative potential. The Empire preferred simple enemies. Humans were not simple. The probes recorded humans playing video games that simulated war. They watched children building robots for school projects. They observed engineers designing artificial intelligence. They saw soldiers training for combat in deserts and oceans. The Empire compared human weapons to their own. Human missiles were slow. Human aircraft were limited by atmosphere. Human satellites were easy targets. From a military view, Earth was weak. Yet something unusual appeared in the digital networks. Humans were deeply connected through global systems. Almost every machine on Earth could communicate with another machine. Billions of devices shared information every second. The Empire had strong networks too, but theirs were controlled and centralized. Human networks were chaotic, messy, hard to predict. Some alien analysts warned that chaos could create unexpected resistance. But High Command was calm. Technological gap remains overwhelming, they concluded. Probability of organized planetary defense, low. Meanwhile, on Earth, strange signals began to worry scientists. A deep space telescope in South America detected a brief distortion near Jupiter. A satellite over the Pacific Ocean recorded unusual interference. Several observatories noticed objects that appeared and vanished within seconds. At first, experts believed it was equipment malfunction. Solar radiation, perhaps. Space debris. Nothing serious. But the disturbances continued. In military centers around the world, quiet conversations began. Radar systems were recalibrated. Cybersecurity teams were placed on alert. Governments did not want to create panic, so information was limited. Most humans went on with their normal lives. People went to work. Children went to school. Planes crossed the skies. Ships sailed across oceans. No one looked up and thought about invasion. Back in space, the probes delivered their final reports. The Empire learned that humans possessed nuclear weapons, devices powerful enough to destroy cities. But they also learned that humans feared these weapons themselves. Many leaders avoided using them. Fear of self-destruction acted as a restraint. The Empire found this weakness interesting. Species emotionally driven, the report said. Decisions influenced by fear, pride, hope. The Empire considered emotion a flaw. Their own society valued logic, order, obedience. Individual thinking was limited. Strategy came from central command. Humans, however, allowed individuals to think freely. Sometimes this created mistakes. Sometimes it created genius. The analysts studied Earth's history. Humans had survived ice ages. They had survived world wars. They had survived pandemics. Every time they faced disaster, they adapted. Not perfectly, not peacefully, but they survived. One analyst quietly noted, "Species demonstrates high resilience." High command read the note, but did not change the plan. Resilience meant nothing against superior power. The Armada was now approaching the orbit of Saturn. Even at reduced speed, its presence bent light and gravity slightly. Soon, human instruments would detect them clearly. The Empire prepared Phase 1, reveal presence, and demand surrender. On Earth, the first undeniable proof appeared. Multiple telescopes across different continents detected enormous objects moving in formation beyond Jupiter. They were not natural. They were not random. They were ships. The information spread quickly among world leaders. Emergency meetings were called. Military commanders received classified reports. Scientists confirmed the truth again and again. Humanity was not alone, and something very large was coming. In space, the alien armada continued its silent advance toward the small blue planet. They believed they understood humans. They believed victory was certain. They believed this would be conquest number 177. They were wrong. Across Earth, telescopes confirmed the same image. Hundreds of massive objects were moving past Jupiter, traveling in perfect formation toward the inner solar system. They were not asteroids. They were not natural. They were ships. Within hours, the news spread to every government. Emergency meetings began in Washington, London, Moscow, Beijing, Delhi, and many other capitals. Military leaders spoke in quiet rooms. Scientists argued over data. No one smiled. Soon, the public found out. A simple announcement was broadcast across the world. Unidentified spacecraft have entered our solar system. The word unidentified did not last long. Everyone understood what it meant. Alien fleet. Fear spread quickly. Stock markets crashed. Flights were canceled. Highways filled with traffic. Some people prayed. Some protested. Some refused to believe it. But the ships kept coming. From space, the alien armada looked like a dark storm moving between planets. Hundreds of warships surrounded larger command vessels. Behind them followed carriers filled with ground forces and machines. Their shields glowed faintly like cold stars. The formation was perfect. Every ship kept exact distance from the others. They moved as if controlled by one mind. Inside the flagship, High Command observed Earth closely. Human military satellites were changing position. Nuclear submarines were moving deeper underwater. Fighter jets were placed on alert. Missile systems were activated. The Empire recorded everything. Planetary defense systems active. An officer reported. High Command was calm. Expected response, they replied. As the Armada crossed the orbit of Mars, Earth's best instruments finally captured clear images. The size of the ships shocked everyone. Some were larger than entire cities. There was no doubt now. Humanity was facing an enemy far beyond its technology. World leaders made a rare decision. Instead of arguing, they united. A global emergency council was formed. Communication lines were opened between nations that had once been enemies. For the first time in history, humanity prepared to stand together. Still, fear remained. Families gathered in homes, watching live broadcasts. Social media filled with questions and rumors. Some believed the aliens would bring peace. Others believed the end had come. In space, the Armada slowed as it approached the asteroid belt. The Empire prepared Phase 1 of planetary conquest. A single ship moved forward from the formation. It was not a small vessel. It was a destroyer-class warship, armed with energy cannons capable of burning continents. It stopped between Earth and the Moon. From its hull, a powerful signal was transmitted toward the planet. The signal was translated automatically into all major human languages. The message was simple. This world is now under the authority of the Empire. Power down all defense systems. Prepare for occupation. Resistance will result in planetary cleansing. The message repeated every 5 minutes. On Earth, silence filled command centers. No one had expected such direct words. There was no negotiation. No offer of friendship. Only command. Military leaders looked at each other. Scientists checked the data again. The alien ship's weapons were active. Energy levels were rising. The Global Council faced a terrible choice. Surrender and hope for survival. Or resist and risk destruction. Some leaders argued that surrender was the only logical path. Others refused. Humanity had survived wars, disasters, and extinction threats before. To surrender without a fight felt wrong. As debate continued, the alien destroyer fired a single shot. A beam of bright white energy struck an empty area of the Pacific Ocean. The explosion lit the sky. A massive wave rose from the sea, spreading outward for miles. Satellites recorded the energy output. It was greater than any nuclear weapon ever built by humans. The message was clear. This was only a demonstration. Panic increased across the world. Coastal cities prepared for impact waves. Emergency services worked without rest. In space, the armada adjusted formation. More ships moved closer. Weapons powered up slowly, like predators stretching before attack. Inside the flagship, the Empire watched Earth's response carefully. They expected surrender within the hour. Instead, something unexpected happened. Human military networks did not shut down. Instead, activity increased. Missile systems locked onto the destroyer. Submarines adjusted targeting systems. Air forces scrambled aircraft. Cyber teams began scanning alien signals. Humanity was not powering down. It was preparing. High Command studied the data with mild curiosity. Probability of successful resistance, 0.02%. An officer calculated. The Empire had seen this before. Some species resisted in fear. It always ended the same way. Still, something about Earth felt different. The planet was noisy. Signals moved in every direction. Billions of devices connected and disconnected every second. Military, civilian, private networks, all active at once. It was chaotic. And chaos was difficult to measure perfectly. As the alien destroyer prepared its second demonstration strike, hundreds of human missiles launched from land and sea. Trails of smoke rose into the sky. Submarines fired from beneath dark waters. Defense systems activated across continents. The first counterattack of humanity had begun. In space, the alien shields glowed brighter as the missiles approached. High Command watched calmly. Conquest number 177 was proceeding as expected. But for the first time in 176 flawless victories, the Empire felt something unfamiliar. Not fear, but uncertainty. Hundreds of human missiles rose from oceans, deserts, forests, and hidden silos. Submarines deep under the sea launched their payloads. Fighter jets released long-range weapons before turning back at full speed. Radar stations tracked every second. For the first time in human history, the entire planet fired together at one single target. In space, the alien destroyer did not move. Its shields brightened, forming a smooth blue wall around the ship. The first wave of missiles struck. Explosions flashed like small suns. Nuclear warheads detonated one after another. The light was so bright that satellites had to adjust their sensors. From Earth, it looked powerful. It looked unstoppable. But when the smoke cleared, the alien ship was still there. The shield had absorbed everything. Not a single visible scratch marked its surface. Inside the flagship, High Command watched calmly. Primitive weapons ineffective, an officer reported. The Empire had expected this. They allowed the attack to continue for study. They recorded the speed of the missiles, the heat of the explosions, the radiation levels. It was all far below their defensive capacity. Still, something unusual happened during the human attack. The destroyer's communication system detected strange signal patterns mixed within Earth's military frequencies. They were weak, almost invisible, but persistent. Human cyber teams were not only firing missiles, they were scanning, probing, testing. Across the planet, in underground bunkers and secure buildings, thousands of engineers and programmers worked without sleep. Governments had opened their digital defenses completely. Private companies joined the effort. Independent hackers volunteered from their homes. There was no central single command controlling all of them. Instead, millions of minds focused on one goal: understand the alien signal. The alien destroyer prepared to answer with force. Energy gathered at the front of the ship. A second beam charged, far stronger than the first demonstration shot. If fired at a city, it would erase millions of lives instantly. On Earth, warning systems screamed. Satellites detected the energy rise. Military leaders braced for impact. But just as the alien weapon reached peak charge, something small happened. A brief flicker appeared in the destroyer's internal network. It lasted less than a second. Inside the ship, engineers checked their systems. No damage was reported. But the energy charge dropped by 3% before stabilizing again. High Command noticed. Cause? Unknown interference, an officer answered. Minor fluctuation. They dismissed it as random solar radiation. The destroyer fired. The beam struck a remote military base in a desert region. The explosion flattened everything within miles. Sand turned to glass. Shockwaves rolled across empty land. The message was clear: resistance would bring destruction. On Earth, fear spread deeper. But surrender orders still did not come. Instead, more activity appeared in human networks. Civilian satellites were being repositioned. Old communication towers were being turned back on. Even outdated systems, once considered useless, were now active. Humans were using everything. The alien analysts studied this behavior. Species response pattern, chaotic amplification, one report stated. Humans did not retreat after the first failure. They increased effort. They changed tactics quickly. Independent teams tried different methods at the same time. Some attempted to break the alien encryption. Some tried to overload signal channels. Some focused on mapping the fleet's formation. The Empire had strong cybersecurity. Their systems had never been breached in 176 conquests. Other civilizations lacked the speed or creativity to challenge them. But human digital systems were strange. They evolved constantly. They patched themselves. They allowed open testing and constant improvement. This made them messy but flexible. Back in space, small irregularities continued. A navigation reading blinked wrong for half a second. A targeting system recalculated twice before confirming. A communication delay increased by a fraction of a millisecond. Each problem was tiny. Alone, they meant nothing. But they were happening more often. High Command ordered a fleet-wide diagnostic scan. All systems reported stable. No confirmed breach. Yet the destroyer's internal logs showed unknown signal attempts coming from Earth's direction. Not strong enough to break through, but persistent. Humans were knocking on the door. On Earth, programmers studied captured fragments of alien transmission. They did not fully understand the language, but mathematics was universal. Patterns were being mapped. AI systems were trained in real time. Humanity knew it could not win a direct firepower battle. That path led to extinction. So they chose a different battlefield. They chose information. As the alien armada moved closer to the moon, preparing for full planetary assault, Earth's digital noise grew louder. The Empire believed the first resistance had failed. They believed fear would soon force surrender. But hidden inside the noise, inside billions of human signals, something was forming. Not a single weapon, not a single leader, but a network. And the Empire had never fought a war against an entire planet thinking at once. The alien armada now floated between Earth and the moon. From the surface, the ships looked like dark stars that did not belong in the sky. At night, People could see them with their own eyes. Fear became real. But while the alien fleet prepared for full invasion, something else was happening on Earth. Something quiet. Something invisible. Deep under mountains, inside old military bunkers, in university labs, in office buildings, and even in small bedrooms, screens were glowing. Humans were fighting a different kind of war. They called it cyberwar. The Global Emergency Council had made a risky decision. All major nations would remove digital barriers between them. Military firewalls were opened to trusted teams. Private technology companies shared their strongest systems. Independent programmers were given access to global defense networks. It had never happened before. Countries that once spied on each other were now sharing code. Rival companies were working side by side. Even young students with special skills were allowed to help. It was messy. Arguments happened. Mistakes were made. But speed mattered more than perfection. The alien ships depended on connection. Every vessel in the armada was linked to central command. Orders moved instantly between ships. Targeting data was shared in perfect timing. Shields adjusted together. Weapons fired in exact formation. The Empire's strength came from unity and synchronization. Human analysts understood this slowly. If we cannot break their shields, one engineer said, maybe we break their timing. The idea spread quickly. Human AI systems began studying alien signal patterns captured during earlier transmissions. The language was unknown, but the structure was mathematical. There were repeating cycles, authorization keys, control pulses. It was not simple. The alien encryption was far beyond human technology. But humans had something the Empire did not expect. Billions of devices. Every phone, every computer, every server, every satellite added small processing power. Distributed systems were formed. Small pieces of code were sent across the planet. Each device tested tiny combinations of alien signal patterns. No single computer was strong enough. But together, they formed a massive hidden machine. The alien fleet noticed the increased signal traffic. Inside the flagship, officers reported unusual background noise coming from Earth. High digital activity, one said. High command remained calm. Primitive interference attempts, they concluded. Ignore unless breach detected. They had faced electronic resistance before. None had succeeded. But humans were not trying to break in directly. They were learning, mapping, studying weaknesses. As the alien ships adjusted position near lunar orbit, small glitches appeared again. A supply ship briefly lost formation alignment. A destroyer's shield calibration recalculated without command. A data relay node repeated a message twice. Each issue corrected itself quickly. Still, the frequency of errors increased. On Earth, teams tracked these moments carefully. Whenever a glitch happened, they analyzed the timing. They compared it with their own signal tests. Patterns began to appear. The alien network was not unbreakable. It was simply never stressed before. Humans began sending false echo signals. Tiny ones. Almost harmless. They mimicked background cosmic radiation. They blended with natural noise. The goal was not to destroy. The goal was to confuse. Inside the flagship, engineers ran deeper scans. Minor timing inconsistencies across fleet, one officer reported. High command frowned slightly. Timing was everything. Even a delay of milliseconds could affect coordinated strikes. Trace source. The system traced interference toward Earth, but could not locate a single origin point. The signals came from everywhere. Millions of tiny pulses. This was new. The Empire was used to centralized enemies. One command center. One capital city. One main server. Destroy the center, and resistance collapsed. But Earth had no single center. It was a web. Cut one strand, and thousands remained. As humans pushed further, one breakthrough occurred. A research team discovered a repeating authentication cycle within alien communications. It was not a password, but a rhythm, a heartbeat that kept ships synchronized. If that rhythm could be disrupted, even slightly, the fleet's coordination would suffer. Human AI systems immediately began testing microdelays. Not enough to trigger alarms, just enough to shift timing by fractions of a second. In space, a group of alien cruisers prepared to reposition. The maneuver required perfect alignment. For the first time in 176 conquests, the movement was imperfect. Two ships adjusted slightly late. Shields overlapped unevenly. Sensors recalculated twice before locking. The mistake was small. No damage occurred. But it was not normal. High Command felt something unfamiliar again. Not fear. Pressure. Earth was not surrendering. It was adapting. The Empire still had overwhelming firepower. They could begin full planetary bombardment at any moment. But their perfect synchronization, the foundation of 176 flawless victories, was no longer flawless. And on Earth, the hidden network continued to grow stronger, learning faster every minute. The humans could not match alien strength, so they chose to attack certainty. For 176 conquests, every move, every strike, every formation had worked perfectly. Every enemy had surrendered without question. Every plan had succeeded without flaw. But Earth was different. The humans were not surrendering. They were not hiding. They were fighting in a way the Empire had never seen. They did not aim to destroy the fleet directly. Instead, they aimed at its mind, its coordination, its order, its certainty. From the surface of Earth, millions of devices and signals acted as one massive network. Satellites pinged alien transmissions. Military communications were intentionally scrambled. Civilian devices sent harmless but confusing signals. The Empire's sensors could not ignore them. They were everywhere. Inside the flagship, officers observed reports of multiple anomalies across fleet systems, one said. High Command narrowed its eyes. Analysis? Signals are interfering with timing sequences, the officer explained. Every ship is receiving contradictory commands for microseconds. Errors are multiplying. High Command had seen resistance before. Rebels, uprisings, small worlds fighting desperately. But this was new. The entire planet was attacking the fleet in unpredictable ways. The Armada moved to Phase 2. Full offensive. Destroyers powered weapons. Carriers readied ground troops. Command ships coordinated every strike. Yet for the first time, synchronization faltered. Two cruisers fired weapons milliseconds out of order. Shields on a frigate recalculated too late. One command vessel sent a duplicated order, confusing nearby ships. High Command frowned. This was small, almost imperceptible, but it should not have happened. On Earth, human operators watched the fleet's every movement. AI systems adjusted timing and frequency, testing the limits of the alien network. When a microerror occurred, humans amplified it slightly with false echoes. When the fleet corrected itself, humans adapted again. It was a constant game of push and pull. The first human missiles had already proven useless against shields. The humans realized that direct attacks would not work. They needed to use the alien strength against itself. Divide and distort. In a command bunker beneath a mountain range, engineers typed rapidly. Lines of code flashed across multiple screens. Simulations of alien signals ran thousands of times per second. Satellites, old internet nodes, and military networks transmitted tiny pulses, timed perfectly to interfere with the alien fleet's communication cycles. For the Empire, the fleet had always been one organism. Every part relied on the others. Firepower, navigation, shields, defense, all coordinated seamlessly. But now, errors were spreading through the system like cracks in glass. A single destroyer, executing a repositioning maneuver near the moon, suddenly lost partial shield synchronization. Sensors on two supporting frigates conflicted. Weapons locked incorrectly for a few milliseconds. The officers panicked slightly. These were not critical mistakes yet, but they were the first signs of real vulnerability. High Command ordered immediate diagnostics. Every ship reported systems stable. Nothing critical. Yet the errors continued. The humans watched carefully, noting every twitch in the alien network. They adjusted their pulses. They sent decoy signals. They created loops that the Empire systems could not untangle. Even without understanding the alien language, Humans were exploiting patterns, rhythms, and timing. The entire planet acted as a single, chaotic mind, slowly pushing the armada toward disorder. Back in space, the fleet moved to execute orbital strikes on Earth. The plan was simple: disable communications, target military centers, force surrender. But the timing of the weapons was slightly off. One destroyer fired milliseconds too early. Another delayed. Shield harmonics clashed. Defensive fields overlapped incorrectly. No lives were lost yet, no damage occurred, but perfection had cracked. High Command was uneasy. "Continue Phase 2, one officer said, forcing calm. Yet the cracks spread. Small mistakes multiplied. Systems began recalculating. Targeting software looped twice before locking. Energy distribution across shields became uneven. The humans were not attacking physically. They were attacking certainty itself. And certainty was the Empire's greatest weapon. For the first time, they realized no enemy had ever challenged their order. No species had ever disrupted their perfection. Earth was not just resisting. It was learning, adapting, evolving in real time. From the surface, humans continued their work. AI, satellites, computers, and even ordinary devices all contributed. The chaos was organized. The randomness was precise. And as the Armada prepared its final pre-landing strike, errors in synchronization were now obvious. High Command had expected fear, expected surrender, expected control. Instead, they were seeing something terrifyingly new: their perfect system breaking under the influence of a species they had dismissed as primitive. The first seeds of doubt had been planted, and Earth's hidden network, unseen and unmeasured, continued to grow stronger with every passing millisecond. The battle had not yet begun, but the war for order and for survival had already changed. The alien armada had been patient. For decades, commanders had trained their crews to expect precision. For centuries, their fleets had moved as one, executing flawless victories. Now they were about to begin their second offensive, the full assault on Earth. From orbit, the planet below seemed fragile. Cities glimmered at night. Oceans reflected the sunlight. Humans moved, unaware of what was coming. The Empire was ready. Destroyers armed with energy cannons, carriers full of troops, command ships controlling everything. They had never failed. This would be another easy conquest. On Earth, humans were ready in their own way. Missiles had already fired and been useless. Civilian networks had blended with military systems to create a chaotic, sprawling digital web. AI programs studied alien signals nonstop. Engineers across continents typed rapidly, adjusting code. Satellites and old equipment transmitted confusing pulses. The first shots of Phase 2 began. Alien destroyers fired massive beams at strategic cities. The energy impact was devastating. Entire regions burned under the light of supercharged weapons. Shockwaves rolled across oceans. Mountains shook. The humans had felt the power of the Empire for the first time. And yet, they did not give up. Submarines fired torpedoes at the alien ships. Fighter jets launched swarms of missiles. Rockets streaked across the sky. Shields absorbed the attacks, leaving minimal damage. The aliens expected this. They always did. But the humans had learned from Phase 1. This time, their assault was more than physical. The hidden network of devices had grown larger and more precise. Signals from satellites, phones, military servers, and even ordinary computers began probing alien systems in real time. Every error, every tiny misalignment was noticed and amplified. The fleet had moved as one. Now, small glitches began to appear. A destroyer fired its weapon slightly before the command signal reached it. Shields on a cruiser overlapped incorrectly. A carrier recalculated energy distribution twice in a row, delaying its defensive systems. High Command studied the data. Anomalies increasing, an officer reported. Timing delays, repeated calculations, unexpected signal interference. The commanders were calm, but internally, concern had grown. This was not supposed to happen. The Empire had never seen a system of errors multiply so quickly. On Earth, human programmers worked furiously. Every small error was tracked and analyzed. AI systems adapted instantly. Code was updated continuously. Signals were sent from multiple locations to confuse alien sensors. The humans were not strong enough to match the Empire's firepower, but they could attack the fleet's perfect timing. As the second phase offensive escalated, alien destroyers aimed at population centers. They fired with precise energy beams. Buildings disintegrated. Power grids failed. Humanity felt the weight of the Empire's wrath. And yet humans did not surrender. The hidden network continued its work. The interference pulses began to affect navigation systems. Ships recalculated trajectories incorrectly. Weapons locked onto wrong targets for milliseconds, tiny errors, but enough to begin chain reactions. The Empire's strength had always come from unity. One misstep could ripple across the fleet. High Command ordered emergency diagnostics across all vessels. Systems reported stable. No damage detected. Yet the errors persisted. Humans were not breaking shields or weapons. They were breaking timing. The first cracks appeared in formation near the moon. Two cruisers collided lightly with energy feedback. Nothing was destroyed, but the precise harmony of the armada had been interrupted. High Command frowned. For the first time, they noticed that the errors were spreading systematically, not randomly. The humans were not just reacting, they were learning. They adapted in real time. The Empire had fought predictable enemies before. One plan, one move, one strategy was always enough. But humans were unpredictable, and their unpredictability was organized. On Earth, civilians continued their work in silence. Homes became command centers. Ordinary laptops became nodes in the massive hidden network. Engineers monitored every alien signal, mapping and adjusting, pulse by pulse. The humans did not have the power to destroy the fleet, but they had found a way to destabilize it. Even the smallest disruption could be dangerous in a fleet that relied on absolute synchronization. In space, the Empire continued its assault. Cities burned, oceans steamed, and millions fled. The humans were in danger, but the hidden network persisted, growing stronger and smarter with every passing moment. High Command observed these anomalies closely. They calculated probabilities. They predicted outcomes. And for the first time, predictions failed. Earth was no longer a simple target. It was a puzzle, and the humans were learning how to solve it. The second offensive had begun. Destruction rained from the skies. But somewhere inside the chaos, a plan was quietly taking shape, one that no one in the Empire had ever expected. The war was far from over, and the first seeds of doubt were spreading through the heart of the Armada. The alien fleet hung over Earth like a dark storm. Its shadows stretched across the oceans, deserts, and cities. From space, it seemed invincible. Every ship was in perfect formation, every weapon charged, every shield glowing with unstoppable energy. High Command expected submission. After 176 worlds, fear alone had always been enough. But Earth was different. The humans had not surrendered. They had not fled. They had adapted. On the surface, the hidden network continued to hum like a living machine. Billions of devices worked together, silently probing the alien fleet. AI systems analyzed data faster than humans could see. Satellites moved into new positions, sending confusing signals. Civilian equipment, from old laptops to simple routers, became nodes in a massive planet-wide operation. It was not random. It was deliberate. Humans were fighting in a way the Empire had never experienced, with chaos as a weapon. Inside the alien flagship, officers reported errors across the fleet. Weapon timing fluctuations, one said. Minor shield misalignment, another noted. Navigation recalculations delayed, a third officer added. High Command studied the reports. They expected these errors to be minor, temporary, insignificant. But the errors kept appearing. Small mistakes multiplied. Timing glitches spread like cracks across the fleet's perfect order. The humans were not attacking with firepower. They were attacking coordination itself. Every ship depended on synchronization. Weapons, shields, navigation, and communication were all connected. One misstep could ripple across the fleet. And the humans were pushing those missteps. Across the planet, programmers adjusted pulses and timing signals in real time. When the Empire corrected one error, humans created another. When one ship realigned, satellites introduced subtle interference. The feedback loop was constant, adaptive, relentless. For the first time in 176 conquests, the Empire faced an enemy it could not predict. High Command convened in the bridge of the flagship. They had studied thousands of species. They had crushed entire civilizations with a single strike. They had never failed. Yet the humans forced them to pause. Probability of complete mission success, an officer reported, has dropped to 94%. High Command raised an eyebrow. 94%? They were used to near certainty, 99.999%. A 6% risk was almost unheard of. Below, humans did not celebrate. They were careful, methodical, and calm. Engineers studied every fluctuation. AI systems learned every pattern. The smallest mistake by the aliens became an opportunity. It was not only technology, it was psychology. Humans did not panic. They did not freeze under fear. They adapted, improvised, and evolved with every second. The Empire's greatest weapon, its perfect unity, was being attacked in a way it could not defend against. The hidden network identified weak points. Not in weapons, not in shields, not in engines. In timing. In coordination. In the flow of information itself. Humans were invisible, but their influence spread across the fleet. The aliens attempted to retaliate. Destroyers fired energy beams at cities. Bombs leveled regions. Shockwaves rolled across seas. Humans suffered massive casualties. Their cities burned. Their infrastructure collapsed. And yet, the network persisted. Humans rebuilt nodes, redirected signals, adjusted programs. Their strategy was simple but effective: survive, adapt, and disrupt. High Command studied the chaos. They fight as one organism, one officer noted. Every human, every device contributes. The system adapts instantly. It was true. The planet itself had become a weapon. And the Empire had never faced a living weapon before. On Earth, civilians continued their work. Ordinary homes became hubs of resistance. Engineers, scientists, programmers, and volunteers worked side by side. Even children with computers played small roles, running simulations, testing interference patterns. Humans understood one thing clearly: they could not match alien firepower. But they could match intelligence, coordination, and adaptability. And they were winning slowly, quietly. Every glitch in the alien fleet grew stronger. Every miscalculation spread further. Even the smallest timing errors began to affect multiple ships at once. The first real cracks appeared in the armada's formation. 2 cruisers misfired energy pulses. Shields overlapped incorrectly on 3 ships. Weapons targeting loops repeated several times before firing. High Command felt a new sensation: concern. This was not fear. It was pressure. For the first time, the Empire realized that a world could resist, not with strength, but with cunning. The humans were not strong individually. They were fragile. But together, they were unpredictable, adaptive, and relentless. And their strategy was working. The second offensive had begun, but the real battle had shifted. It was no longer about cities or weapons. It was about information, timing, and adaptability. In the silence of space, the aliens observed the humans. They were powerful, yes, but they were not obedient. They did not follow the patterns the Empire had studied for thousands of years. And in that difference lay the humans' greatest strength. Earth had chosen its battlefield, and it had chosen to fight differently. The Armada had firepower. Humans had strategy. And for the first time, the odds were no longer certain. The alien Armada had moved across countless star systems, crushing every world in its path. Each conquest had been smooth, precise, and predictable. For 176 civilizations, fear alone had ended resistance. Every plan worked. Every order succeeded. Until Earth, the humans were different. From orbit, the fleet looked unstoppable. Destroyers glowed with energy. Carriers bristled with machines. Command ships hovered at the center, controlling every movement. Yet, small errors were beginning to multiply. Inside the flagship, alarms blinked silently. Shields on 2 cruisers recalculated 3 times in seconds. Weapons locked and unlocked repeatedly. Navigation systems reported slight misalignments. Every system on the fleet had been designed for perfect synchronization, and now, that synchronization was failing. "Sir," an officer said quietly, "multiple command loops are conflicting. Some ships are receiving contradictory orders." High Command studied the data. For the first time, doubt crept into their thoughts. "Verify," they ordered. The reports were clear. Signals were being distorted. Communication between ships had minor delays, recalculations, and conflicts. Normally, these would have been negligible. Normally, the fleet corrected instantly. But the errors were growing. Earth's hidden network had become a silent predator. Every device, every satellite, every connection sent signals designed to confuse, delay, and disrupt. The humans did not strike with weapons. They struck at the fleet's mind, its perfect timing and coordination. One cruiser tried to adjust its trajectory for a wide attack pattern. Its weapons fired milliseconds too late. Another destroyer locked shields incorrectly, leaving a small vulnerability. A carrier recalculated troop deployment 3 times before confirming. The cracks were spreading. High Command moved faster than ever before, trying to restore control. Every command was repeated, confirmed, and verified. Systems were reset. Shields recalibrated. Weapons retargeted. Yet the errors persisted. "Sir, the humans are interfering in real time," an officer said, disbelief in his voice. "They are adapting faster than we can respond." High Command frowned. Adaptation was a weakness they had never faced. Every civilization had predictable patterns. Every plan worked. Every opponent could be crushed with precise strikes. But Earth did not follow patterns. The humans did not have the power to destroy the fleet directly. They could not match energy beams or shields. But they could exploit mistakes. They could amplify errors. They could force the armada to doubt itself. Across the fleet, the mistakes began to affect more than one ship at a time. One command vessel transmitted a duplicated order. Nearby destroyers fired incorrectly. Shield harmonics on cruisers overlapped and conflicted. Minor timing delays spread like cracks across steel. The Empire had never seen this happen. High Command ordered a recalibration of all vessels. Engineers worked feverishly, monitoring every calculation, every pulse, every signal. And still, the interference grew. In orbit, one cruiser attempted a maneuver near the moon. It miscalculated slightly, brushing against another ship's defensive field. No damage occurred, but the collision sent shockwaves of automated recalculations across multiple vessels. High Command realized the situation was worsening. They had expected fear, confusion, panic. Instead, they were seeing organized disruption. Humans were not just surviving, they were controlling the battlefield in ways the Empire could not predict. From Earth, engineers monitored every anomaly. AI systems learned from each misstep. Civilian computers joined military networks, sending micropulses to reinforce disruption. Every tiny glitch in the fleet became amplified, multiplied, and repeated. Even the Empire's most advanced vessels were reacting too late. Coordination, once perfect, now had small but growing gaps. Ships recalculated positions unnecessarily. Weapons fired out of sequence. Shields overlapped poorly. High Command knew something they had never imagined. The Empire could fail. For the first time in thousands of years, doubt entered their minds. The humans had not fired a single ship-destroying missile that could match alien weapons. But they had done something more dangerous. They had broken the rhythm of the Armada. And once rhythm is broken, even the strongest army begins to collapse. Inside the flagship, officers worked furiously to restore control. Commands were repeated. Systems were rebooted. Every ship was checked. But the interference continued. Humans were everywhere at once. Not physically, not with bombs, but with intelligence, coordination, and adaptability. The Empire had faced strong enemies, yes. It had faced advanced technology, but never a species that could fight an entire fleet using nothing but timing, communication, and clever adaptation. And now, the collapse of command had begun. The first cracks had formed. And if they continued, the Armada would face something the Empire had never seen: defeat by a planet that refused to kneel. The vanishing. For centuries, the Empire had moved like a shadow across the stars. Worlds had surrendered or burned. Fleets had advanced without error. Command was absolute, perfect, unbroken. But Earth was different. Errors were no longer small. They were multiplying. Systems on multiple ships began conflicting with one another. Energy distribution fluctuated. Weapon targeting loops repeated endlessly. Shields recalculated without reason. High Command realized something terrifying. The hidden human network was not just interfering, it was controlling. From Earth, signals sent from satellites, servers, and ordinary computers converged into a single, invisible weapon. They did not strike directly. They did not shoot beams or fire missiles. They twisted timing, misaligned coordination, and forced the Armada to fight itself. Inside the flagship, alarms screamed. Officers tried to restore order. Commands were repeated. Calculations were redone. Every system was checked. And still, the errors grew. One destroyer, preparing to fire at a major city, miscalculated its shield timing. It triggered a feedback loop across 3 nearby ships. Energy discharged unpredictably. Weapons misfired. Shields dropped in some areas. Another cruiser attempted to correct the problem, only to send a duplicated order. For ships responded incorrectly, firing in unplanned sequences. The chain reaction continued. High Command convened a meeting in the bridge. This had never happened before. For the first time in 176 victories, a fleet's coordination had begun to fail irreversibly. "Prepare for immediate evacuation," one officer whispered. His voice trembled. Evacuation had never been necessary. They had never feared a planet before. But it was too late. The human network had found the key. It was not brute force. It was intelligence, unpredictability, and relentless adaptation. Timing pulses from Earth disrupted warp drives, navigation systems, and energy harmonics. Ships moved off course. Weapon targeting misaligned. Shields fluctuated violently. One by one, the fleet began to vanish, not in flames, not in explosions, but silently. Destroyers were pulled into destabilized warp fields caused by cascading system errors. Cruisers dropped out of formation, then disappeared. Carriers lost connection to command cores and were torn apart by internal energy surges. Inside the flagship, High Command could only watch. Calculations failed. Simulations no longer worked. Every victory they had ever counted on was meaningless here. Containment impossible, an officer said. Ships began self-destructing. Some commanders initiated fail-safe protocols to prevent capture by humans. Explosions erupted in space, but none of them reached Earth. Debris fell into distant orbits or burned harmlessly in the atmosphere. The once perfect Armada had become chaos itself. On Earth, humans observed from hidden monitoring stations. They did not cheer. They did not celebrate. They had survived, yes, but barely. Millions had already died from the initial strikes. Cities lay in ruins. Oceans steamed from energy beams. And yet, the human network continued. Even as the alien fleet disappeared, humans adapted to the new situation, ensuring no remnants could reorganize. Every microsignal, every satellite pulse, every AI algorithm continued to watch, learn, and defend. By the time the last alien ship disappeared, silence hung over the solar system. The void that once carried the empires might now seem empty. Not a single vessel returned to the outer galaxy. Not a single piece of wreckage reached Earth. The Empire had vanished. High Command did not survive. The surviving captains, engineers, and soldiers were lost in deep space, trapped by the very systems they had designed. On Earth, the survivors stared at the skies. No fleet. No explosions. No debris. Nothing remained. Humanity had faced an enemy stronger than any in history. A force that had conquered hundreds of civilizations. And it was gone. Victory had not come from weapons. Not from strength. It came from ingenuity, adaptability, and unity under pressure. For the first time, humans understood their true power. Alone, they were weak. Together, they were unpredictable. Together, they could face the impossible. The global leaders met silently. Words felt meaningless. They did not need to explain what had happened. The alien armada had arrived. It had intended to conquer. It had vanished completely. Earth had survived. And humanity knew, for the first time, that the universe was watching. The planet had become a lesson, a warning, and a statement all at once. Humans could not be predicted. Humans could not be crushed. The vanishing of the armada was complete. And for centuries to come, the stars would remember Earth not as weak, not as primitive, but as a force no invader could ignore. The battle was over. The war had changed. And humanity had survived. After the silence, the solar system was quiet. For weeks, no alien ships appeared. No signals pulsed in space. Satellites reported only faint cosmic noise. On Earth, humans slowly began to breathe again. The immediate fear of destruction had passed, but the memory of the armada lingered. Cities had been damaged, infrastructure destroyed, lives lost, but humanity had survived. Leaders from all nations gathered once more. They no longer debated over borders or old conflicts. The war had reminded them that unity was stronger than division. A global council was formed, stronger and more coordinated than before, to plan the recovery of Earth. Even scientists and engineers worked together in ways that had once been impossible. Technology that had been shared during the battle now formed the basis of new research. Satellites, AI, and communication networks that had disrupted the alien fleet were now being repurposed for defense, exploration, and knowledge. Yet, despite the calm, questions remained. Why had the Empire vanished completely? Why had there been no trace of wreckage? Could they return? Or had Earth's strange, hidden network truly destroyed a force that had conquered hundreds of worlds? Even the most experienced military strategists hesitated to answer. They had faced nothing like this before. Humans had not won through power alone. They had not matched the aliens with fleets or weapons. Instead, victory had come through intelligence, adaptability, and unpredictability. In the weeks after the vanishing, global surveillance focused outward. Telescopes and probes scanned the far reaches of the solar system and nearby stars. Any hint of alien activity would be reported instantly. Every nation contributed to the monitoring effort. Humans knew that survival depended not on ignorance, but on knowledge. On the ground, ordinary people returned to their routines. Children went back to school. Markets reopened. Farmers returned to the fields. Yet everywhere, there was a quiet respect for what had been faced. Humanity had survived the impossible. Engineers studied the technology left behind. Not from alien ships, they had none, but from the changes caused by the interaction with human systems. Signals captured during the battle were analyzed. AI programs, which had grown more sophisticated during the conflict, were now permanent parts of global defense. Humanity had learned something the aliens had not anticipated. A small, coordinated network of intelligent minds could outthink an empire of war machines. Leaders also began preparing for the possibility of future threats. Humanity had been lucky or clever, but they could not rely on luck forever. Defense systems were upgraded, global communication became seamless, and emergency protocols were designed with lessons from the recent crisis. Yet, despite the planning and preparation, humans could not forget the enormity of what had happened. For generations, stories were told of the alien armada and its sudden disappearance. Historians debated whether it had been destroyed, confused, or simply withdrawn. Philosophers speculated on the nature of intelligence and strategy. Children learned that courage and creativity mattered as much as strength. In space, the area where the Armada had once hovered remained empty. Satellites circled silently. No debris drifted in orbit. The destruction had been complete, yet almost invisible. The vanishing left no physical trace, only echoes in the calculations of scientists and the memories of those who had survived. For humanity, this was a turning point. The knowledge that they had faced a superior force and prevailed without matching its raw power gave people confidence. Governments, scientists, and citizens alike realized that intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability were weapons in their own right. The victory was not only survival, it was proof of human potential. Across the planet, small memorials were built for those who had died in the initial strikes. The memory of cities lost, waves of destruction, and human sacrifice became a quiet reminder. Survival required effort, courage, and innovation. And yet, despite the tragedy, hope remained. Humanity had learned that even the strongest empire could be challenged. Even the most advanced fleet could be disrupted by determination, unity, and intelligence. For the first time in history, humans looked at the stars without fear, knowing that if they worked together, they could face any threat. The vanishing of the alien armada had changed everything. Humanity had survived. Humanity had learned. And humanity had grown stronger. In the quiet weeks after the battle, Earth began to rebuild, not just cities and infrastructure, but confidence. A new era had begun, one in which humans understood that intelligence, creativity, and unity were just as important as weapons, shields, and armies. The silence in space was not the end. It was a beginning. Earth had survived the impossible, and humanity would never forget it. A new dawn. The sun rose slowly over a battered but unbroken Earth. Cities that had been shattered by alien energy beams now began to stir with life again. Smoke still hung in the air, rivers carried debris, and deserts bore the scars of battle. Yet, amidst the destruction, there was hope. Humanity had survived what no civilization before had ever faced. Leaders gathered in the remnants of international councils. Borders and old disputes were no longer the priority. Survival had proven that division was weakness, and unity was strength. Countries shared resources openly. Engineers, scientists, and strategists worked together as never before. The hidden network that had disrupted the alien armada became the foundation for a new global system, one that connected every human mind, every machine, and every satellite in real time. The story of the armada, its overwhelming might, and its sudden vanishing spread worldwide. People recounted the events not only with fear, but with pride. Humanity had faced an enemy stronger than any in recorded history. And it had prevailed, not with brute force, but with ingenuity, adaptation, and unity. From space, satellites and probes continued to scan the stars. Humanity had learned its lesson. Vigilance was vital. The Empire had been powerful, but humans had discovered a new weapon of their own, one that relied on intelligence, coordination, and unpredictability. Every planet, every fleet, every signal could now be analyzed, adapted to, and, if necessary, countered. On the ground, reconstruction began. Homes were rebuilt, cities restored, and communities revived. Hospitals treated the wounded, while engineers repaired communications networks. Children returned to schools, carrying stories of bravery and the lessons of the past. Humanity had survived through strategy, not surrender, and the memory of those who had fought and died inspired a new sense of purpose. In laboratories, scientists and programmers studied the signals captured from the alien fleet during its final hours. They analyzed the patterns, the timing, and the rhythms that had once synchronized an entire armada. New AI systems were trained to mimic this intelligence, creating a planetary defense that was invisible, flexible, and adaptive. Humans had turned the tactics of their enemy into their own strength. Philosophers and historians debated the meaning of the vanishing. Was the armada destroyed, confused, or simply withdrawn? No one could say for certain. The absence of wreckage puzzled even the most brilliant minds. Yet, the lesson was clear. Human ingenuity could surpass even the most advanced technology when combined with unity and adaptability. The survivors walked among the ruins of their cities, feeling both sorrow and pride. They had lost much, yet they had gained a deeper understanding of their potential. The war had not only been a battle of firepower, but a battle of minds. Humanity had learned that courage alone was not enough. Knowledge, creativity, and collaboration could defeat even the most overwhelming foe. Leaders began to plan for the future. Space programs were expanded, research and technology accelerated, and education became the focus of a new generation. Humanity no longer feared the unknown in the same way. The stars were no longer distant and untouchable. They were a challenge, an opportunity, and a reminder of the ingenuity that had saved the planet. Communities celebrated quietly. They honored the dead, rebuilt what they could, and shared stories of bravery. Ordinary citizens who had operated computers, satellites, and networks during the invasion were hailed as heroes. They had faced the impossible and succeeded. In the skies above, the absence of the alien armada was a constant reminder. The dark fleet that had once threatened to consume Earth had vanished completely. Not a single ship returned. No wreckage fell. The vanishing was total, silent, and mysterious. Humanity had survived the impossible, and in doing so, it had become something stronger. As the sun set over the rebuilt cities, people paused to watch the stars. The night sky was vast and silent, but no longer frightening. Humanity had faced the ultimate challenge and emerged victorious. The battle had changed everything. Unity, intelligence, adaptability, and courage had proven stronger than fear, weapons, and domination. A new era had begun. The humans who had survived the alien armada now looked toward the future with knowledge and confidence. They understood that survival was not only about strength, but about learning, adapting, and working together. They were no longer just inhabitants of a fragile planet. They were a species capable of facing the universe itself. The solar system was quiet, but Earth was alive. Humanity had endured, learned, and evolved. The vanishing of the Armada had shown that no force, however powerful, could conquer a species that refused to surrender, that adapted, and that worked as one. And in that quiet, battered, but unbroken world, a new dawn began. Humanity would rise, not as victims, but as a force the universe could never ignore.